Hello! Welcome back to That Buzzing Sound. I am Justin. Thanks for joining us once again. Things have gotten kind of crazy since our last episode, huh? They literally just fully locked down California to stop the numbers from growing. Unbelievable. And it's only going to get worse before it gets better. Hope these isolation days aren't driving you up the walls. I've secretly smiled each time an active text message from one of my various friends, who usually are really busy, have appeared on my phone over the past couple days. I think they've forgotten I've been homebound since 2017. My world just got a little bit smaller. It isn't anything too major, and I actually don't mind staying here 24/7, mostly because I have my routine in full rotation each and every day, and it pretty much stays the same. Been actually quite busy working on the site, planning for this podcast series, and playing a little bit of Nintendo Switch in my free time. All three tasks continue to bring me such joy, the music especially. The Weeknd's new record just came out, so I'm going to jump onto that probably this weekend. Hope y'all are safe, washing your hands, and keeping the constant stream of bad news at a minimum. Go fill the time with some escapist entertainment, or do what my family and our neighbors are doing, a little spring house cleaning. You can't imagine how many pieces of furniture and televisions were on the street this week. It was nuts. Just know by choosing to listen to this episode, you are helping to support the relief efforts, for I will be donating $1 for each play of this episode to Feeding America, whom support communities facing hunger during these times of uncertainty. If we reach or surpass 25 plays, I will double the total amount on March 31st. Truly. There's no better time to help our communities. Be the light that supports someone else's much needed joy. And expect a different charity with each episode going forward. Hashtag 2020 goals. Thanks for stopping by. Today's episode is truly special, for we have TBS favorite Lexytron kicking off our Spotlight interview series. Her brand new album, Something Blue, has officially dropped worldwide after a few years of teasing. Kinda like this podcast feature. It is an accomplishment that has been a long time coming for the eccentrically psychedelic, half-Greek, half-Persian, English-made singer-songwriter. She now plots her pop music domination down under on the quiet island paradise of New Zealand. Lexytron's debut project really captures the essence of independence as it takes pleasure crossing a multitude of genres, which was an aspect that drew me almost instantly to her art a few years ago when it dropped into my inbox. This was a talented musician who loved to play hopscotch across musical lines, preferring to capture the rawness of personal emotions through her classically trained background lenses. Adoring artists like David Bowie, the Fab Four, and countless others, jumping straight into their galaxy-sized footprints seems like a task Lexytron has fully embraced. I will say, you might feel these songs are a little too rough around the ears upon your first listen, but let the friction turn into fire over a few more plays, and I promise you'll start to notice the intricacies occurring within the details, like I did. I don't know why, but flashes of Zooey Deschanel performing at the Satellite in the film Yes Man come to mind when picturing some of these songs. Especially the first two songs on the album, Blackmail and I'm Not a Disco. Silver Lake and probably even Echo Park would absolutely go crazy to these rockin' moments. I'm not asking you to take a chance on Something Blue, more like you're missing out on a possible diamond in the rough that looks forward to shining its shades of blue even brighter after this darkness fades. It was my honor to invite Lexi to lead off this series, because she was one of the first notable names to support me when That Buzzing Sound debuted. Can't help but smile that the timing of our conversation, which you're about to hear, happened at this point in time. Her debut album releasing, our long-awaited interviews series looking to start, everything feels right. But I won't lie to you, I did have some technical issues throughout the recording session. I actually had heaps. Troublesome microphone, spotty internet due to some springtime LA rain, glitches in Discord recording, among other things. Luckily, I don't mind some broken eggshells in my omelets. Will only make the next 100 episodes better, and I can't wait to get there. Nothing but love to Lexytron for allowing me to stumble out the gate. Still think this interview came out quite well. Our 2-hour conversation, live from a day away, because she's in New Zealand, and I was in LA, made for a fast-paced, enlightening 40-minute package. Look forward to us chatting about her brand new album, Something Blue, available everywhere now, her background, our current state of the world, music and otherwise, delicious food, adventurous travel, including her home of New Zealand, and so much Beatles love, which we all need right now. Sit back, relax, for this is my interview with Lexytron.
Let's
So
go.
hi, welcome. You're the first guest on the podcast, and I appreciate. And for someone that I've supported, you have also supported me by like shouting me out. So for everything you've done so far in this team, I really appreciate you being the first guest, the first interview.
Oh, it's an honor. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I wanted to make the first couple episodes very special to people and artists that I have had an enjoyment working with throughout this entire process. So thank you. And again, we've been working for like 2 years now, right? Something like that, because you started promoting the record back in
autumn 2018, I think, was when I first had the song Blackmail out. And then I suppose everything got a little bit delayed because we made the big move from London to New Zealand. But really happy to be in a position to put it out now and hopefully focus on some new music now that I know people want to listen to it.
How long has the record fully been done? Because I saw an Instagram post that you did that you had it like in a stack of records with like Bowie. Has the record been kind of done for like over a year now, or is it?
Yeah, the record was finished when I was in London, and that was a birthday present that the record was put onto vinyl for me, which is really cool. So I've got the only copy of it on vinyl, which is pretty cool. Yeah, so it's been done for a while, but I guess it was just a matter of trying to see if people wanted to listen to it really, and try and tease some interest, and manage to build up some good support. So I think I'm ready to let it go and see what people think.
And I'm only expecting great things to come of it, because again, the record is fantastic, especially how eccentric it is, because that was one of your goals, is to make it feel something that's very personal, yet it covers all of your stylistic genres and like just like makes up you. It's a record that I feels like it's very focused from your core.
Oh, that's great.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Like, how did the process begin? Like, did it start with a song, or did it start with like the concept of the record, or was just like, I have a song, I want to put it out, and then slowly the song started turning over a little bit more?
I think part of it was that I didn't have the confidence I had songs, but I didn't have the confidence to record them. And I was encouraged by Mark, who ended up mixing and mastering the record, that I should record an album, and it would be something that he'd be happy to be involved in. So we started off, I started working with Mike, who's my partner, and I had some of the songs, they were the sketches, and we just went through song by song. And I think it wasn't the case that we recorded 20 or 25 songs and then whittled it down. We worked on each one in turn. It was just a matter of picking songs that I felt like I wanted to record or develop. Then when it came to working on the record, I suppose I ordered it in a way that I felt made sense. So that was how that came together, really. The songs were written at different times, but I do feel as though there is a story still within there. I suppose it's a life story, really, as you have different experiences. They develop through time, and I guess that's why maybe you feel as though it makes sense.
Oh, most definitely. I could tell that it was very, like, if I made a record, it would sound something like that. Did it come from, because I could tell there was a lot of fire behind some of the lyrics, some of the stories that the author on the record was putting out. Did that come from like a personal place? Was it very therapeutic to make the record?
Yeah, I think the record is personal, but not all of the songs are about my experiences. Some might be observations. So a song like 21.5, it's not about me, but it's something that I experienced having watched somebody else's story. So I think everything does come from me, but I might be narrating it about myself, or I might be narrating it because it's something that either I've witnessed or I have tried to tell as a story, and maybe I'm projecting it through characters. So, but a song like, I think probably the most personal song on the record might be Blue, just because that one, it came from quite a personal place, but then as I was writing it developed into something else. And I did find that when I first wrote it, it was a bit emotional to sing it. But then through doing the record and then working on the songs, then how you relate to them changes. So it's almost like it doesn't belong to me anymore. That's an interesting part of the process, is that it's therapeutic, but then I think people sometimes refer to songs as their babies, and sometimes I think it's maybe once you give birth to them that they're out of your system in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a really fun process as well, because neither of us had made a record before, myself and Mike. So we learn a lot by doing it, and we were messing around with different sounds, and also it was useful for me because I had always played music and listened to music, but never actually thought about the intricacies of putting a song together. And I think the process taught me a lot, and I realized how hard it is and how much work goes into it, which is something people take for granted, because you can go on your Spotify playlist and you listen to a song and then you skip to the next one. And music nowadays is very disposable, and I don't think it's appreciated how much time goes into that little nugget that you listen to and then hit shuffle on. So that was something that I was very grateful for, having had that experience, and it's changed my relationship with the music I listen to as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it's just I think originally I would be listening to lyrics, for instance. Now I've tried to tune my ear into other things that are going on in the recording. Some people say that they listen to they hear the music before the lyrics sometimes, and I think it's different for different people. So some people might listen to a song and they can identify the percussion and the bass, and whereas I think my mind initially jumps to the lyrics, having sort of worked on the record and on the more delicate parts. I think I now listen out for things a bit more.
I can only imagine that comes with more experience and the time and the effort. And yeah, but I come from the same place where I connect to a song mostly through the lyric, and then as I've started doing this and expanding my horizons, it became more of a all-around process of just absorbing whatever little intricacies that just connected with me instantly.
Yeah.
But yeah, with 5 days left as of this recording, how excited are you for the record to actually come out worldwide? And do you know what like you're gonna do, or are you guys gonna have a celebration?
Yeah, well, not really planned a celebration. We had something planned that's been canned because of the coronavirus. Not allowed to gather anymore in big numbers. So in terms of getting the record out, it's interesting because we're obviously ahead over here in New Zealand. So by the time it comes out here, everyone will be asleep on the other side of the world. So I think I'll probably just be certainly I'll give myself a night off, but I'll also be curious as to what the feedback will be, just because I found that when I've read what people have said, I've just found it really interesting, because what other people notice is stuff that I don't notice, but also the way that they interpret things can be things that weren't even in the back of my mind, but then they found something in how it applies to their lives. And that's the same with any kind of, many different artists have the same thing. I remember seeing a John Lennon documentary where he's making the Imagine album, and there's this guy that's hanging outside of his house, and he's saying to him, "Oh, I dig a pony, it's all about me, isn't it?" And John's saying, "Well, actually it's just a load of nonsense put together, but if it's about anyone, it's about me, or it's about Yoko." And I suppose that just sums it up really, is that a song is whatever you want it to mean. So I not to say too much about what songs are about, just because I want people to have room for the interpretation as well. But I might offer a few different possibilities and see what sticks really with people. So yeah, I'm very excited about that. And I had the first review of the album over here in New Zealand, and it was really interesting reading it, because the reviewer was commenting on how Blue, for instance, he's saying, "Oh, it sounds a bit like harmonies like the Cores and Cranberries," and I didn't really appreciate that. I find it difficult trying to think about which artists I may sound like, because as you know, that it's quite easy when it comes to blogs and the industry, people want to say, "Well, who do you sound like?" And that's something I've struggled with, because I can't think of one artist that I sound like necessarily, because I think maybe you might put me in, say, some of my songs, let's say Blondie might be a comparison, but part of that I think could be because I'm a woman as well. That's something that I wonder if you switch my voice with a male, like somebody like Brandon Flowers, would the song sound a bit more like the Killers? So that's something that I find quite interesting, is just seeing how other people see the music and where it sits in terms of, I suppose, the canon of modern pop music, really.
I especially feel like the first half of the record is very like in your face punk, and then you like Blue, especially with the video out, like you could really go for that Sinead O'Connor like one take shot on the beach, which I absolutely
nice,
loved.
yeah.
How was shooting the
Oh,
video?
that was really because we were road tripping around New Zealand. I mean, it's stunning. It was just a matter of driving and spotting something and go, oh, that looks nice. Maybe we can shoot something there. But it was pretty funny because you were trying to not have people walk past and think you looked a bit strange.
Yeah, you're doing this for TikTok.
Yeah. But I think you've got enough that there's a small enough population in New Zealand, particularly in the South Island, to find that we were away from most people. So yeah, it was great fun doing it. It changed in terms of the concept as we shot in a few different locations, and I was going to cut the shots together, but it just seemed, I think in the end, I've just thought keep it simple, because I think like the song is very much wearing your heart on your sleeve. I wanted the video to be quite natural, and we went for that concept in the end.
Yeah, it's your first music video that you were actually in front of the camera, right? Because the other two, for I believe I'm Not a Disco and Tell the Vein, they were like,
yeah,
silent film.
Yeah, Blackmail, I'm Not a Disco, and Couples all used silent movies. And the video for Brand New had me in it. That was a series of different clips I put together from various adventures that I'd had over the years. So some clips came from Japan, China, Argentina, Chile, Greece, just different places. Some were shot in London. So that was just a bit of a tour video. But yeah, other than Brand New, I've not been in any of them. The video Tell the Vein, though, I mean, represented my my old journey back in London, though, which was so in some ways it feels like I'm in the video, even though I'm not.
I will ask you about the travel stuff at the end, because I am very curious about it. Because how much of a worldly traveler you are. Like, even if you just go on the Instagram, you just go, yeah, I'm kind of jealous of all the places she's been. But we'll get to that. And is the name Something Blue? Does that come from the saying something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue? Is that what you were going for? Like, I was just curious what the title.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mix, really. It's because of the song Blue, and also there's the other song Gypsy Blue on the album.
Mm-hmm.
And then I suppose it's because of the old saying. Strangely, I suppose around the time that we're recording, I did get married as well. So
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. So there's that aspect as well. And it sort of suited the mood of the record, because as you can hear in some of the lyrics, blue, like in Gypsy Blue, you are my friend when I feel blue. It seemed like it was a theme of the record, and just something that I've noticed over the years. I went to an open house that they had back in southeast London where I was living, and they were putting exhibits on of paintings. They do this every year in a place called Dulwich, and I was looking around at the paintings, and this lady said to me, "Oh, you seem to gravitate towards the blue paintings." So I think there's something inside of me that just relates to that colour. I know some people have a lucky number. I guess maybe blue's a colour that I don't know whether it's lucky or not, but it's something that probably is quite telling.
And as one of your influences, the Beatles, they have the White Album, so I was only imagining that you would follow the same trend, because you are a huge fan of the Beatles. Bowie.
Oh, I'm a massive fan of the Beatles, and that was something I was curious of, because they're probably the band that I've listened to the most in my life, and I did wonder, I suppose all bands are influenced by them, and I was curious as to whether that shone through on the record or not.
Mm-hmm. I know you were trying to go for a collage of their work, but I could sense like Rubber Soul, I could sense like a lot of the psychedelic stuff during like the middle part of their term.
Yeah.
But I'm a huge fan of Abbey Road and Let It Be. I'm more of the later Beatles.
Yeah, well, I mean, with Let It Be, for instance, that is effectively early Beatles, just done late, some of it anyway. Especially at one after 909 would be the one that springs to mind. I mean, actually, have you seen about the Peter Jackson film that's coming out?
Oh yeah, I'm quite excited for it.
Yeah, me too.
I just saw Yesterday. Did you see that film?
Yeah, I did actually. I saw it in Australia when we first came over. I quite enjoyed it, actually. I mean, it's not a masterpiece, but it was good fun, though, I thought.
Mm-hmm. I felt like Ed Sheeran was in it a little too much, but the parts that he was in it kind of worked.
Yeah, did you know that Chris Martin was meant to play that role?
Oh, really? That would make more sense. because they do make the Coldplay reference in the film.
I think he was the first choice, and then because you do think if there was no Beatles, is Ed Sheeran really the next best thing? No offense,
no.
Sheeran, but I mean, I think the bit that annoyed me a little bit with his character was when he did that songwriting competition.
The write a song in 10 minutes,
yeah, that bit was a bit like, oh come on, Ed. But I really liked the moment Parents and they had their friend coming, and then he was playing the lead character was playing Let It Be. That bit me up.
Yeah, and they kept interrupting because that's something that would happen now. Like my friends would do that to me. It's like, listen to this, and they're like,
Well, I think I also related to the film in that respect, because I felt that it is really hard to get people to listen to you if you don't have a platform and starting out. So that's why I'm really grateful to the likes of your blog as well and podcast for supporting me, because it's hard to even get listened to because there's so much music around, there's so much noise outside of music as well, especially on social media. So it's hard to kind of get through. So that I did see that with the character, that you could have the songs like the Beatles and you might still not get listened to, and I think that scene really summed that up, really, didn't it?
Yeah, and for the most part, I love supporting the dreamers, and I really want to help them take it to the platform. And I'm glad people come back every day and come to the site and listen to this and listen to you guys and get the exposure that you need, because that's the goal.
Yeah, no, and you do a great job of it.
I appreciate it. But do you have a new perspective about the album after working completely through it? Is there anything that you feel like you regret, or any challenge that you felt like you overcame, like balancing the work, the dream aspect of your life and the working professional aspect, and trying to live a life with a family and moving to a different country?
Don't like to have regrets about things. Obviously, if I played it back, I mean, maybe there are aspects that I would change on it. I'm sure that there are things that I would do differently, and especially I think when we start working on a second record, we'll have gained so much knowledge and we'll do things differently. But I don't have anything that I would change, because I sort of feel as though it captures a time, it captures a moment, and I suppose it's like Let It Be, for instance. Paul McCartney tried to go and do Let It Be naked, and was there any need for that? I think the original record was fine and it worked in its own way. So I think I'm quite happy for it just to exist as it is. And maybe in the future, one of the songs might get re-recorded if I ever get the opportunity to maybe work on a bigger scale. But I'm quite happy with how we did it. To me, it sounds quite polished, and I think it's got the sound that I want it to have. Obviously, maybe there are certain songs where if in an ideal world, it could have had a massive orchestra playing on them or something. But overall, I'm quite happy that it captures quite an organic sound.
Yeah, when you're up on Royal Albert Hall and you're in front of that giant crowd, then you can release the live record.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool. You gonna release another single? Like, are you gonna try to get everything onto some sort of visual form?
I think that the feeling was I've got another couple of interviews that I'll be doing around the record, and if anybody else wants to write about it or talk about it, I'm more than happy to. In terms of promotion, I think I'd probably put a good number of singles out. I suppose I don't want it to go too much more than what I have done, because it's probably at Thriller-esque levels in terms of the song put out. But the reason that I did that as well is because I think nowadays that's what people seem to do before they drop an album, is that they promote the singles up front and then the album's out, and then once it's out there. So I'm just quite happy for people to find it in their own time, even if it's not, it might be via blog or it might be via word of mouth, and just see what happens with it, really. It's not necessarily going to end up being a large scale thing, but that doesn't really matter to me too much. It's more that I'd made something that had value, and other people have found something in it. And I feel as though from the feedback I've received that it has had an impact on people. It could be a small impact, or it could be something more major. I know that there have had some people have told me that they have really found something in some of the songs, and that's really cool, because the alternative is that I could have never recorded the album, and that wouldn't have happened. So that's pretty cool, and it makes it worthwhile. So it makes all the effort that I've put into the project as well. It feels like it's hard work's paid off.
Most definitely. Is there something that you hope the listener takes from Something Blue? Or are you just hoping, like I think you mentioned it before, that you just kind of want everyone to put themselves onto the record and just absorb
Yeah,
it?
I think at the very least, if somebody smiles after they've listened to it, or they've enjoyed it, even if they've just listened to it once, that would be something. And I suppose the best thing that you can get out of the record is if you've in some way affected or changed somebody's life. And I do feel as though from some of the comments that I've had, that a few of the songs have had that more deep and meaningful, left that deep and meaningful impression, and that's something that really happy with as a songwriter. So for instance, with Gypsy Blue, I know that one of my friends who's a big fan of the music, she's done a doodle which she's coloured in, pulled out the words, "You are my sunshine, you are my lifeline, you are my friend Blue," because that really means something to her. She's got a project where she's trying to promote, it's called Happy Doodle Mail, and she's trying to do a pen pal service for where people exchange artwork. And she's also trying to, I suppose, raise awareness about mental health. And so there's something that she's pulled out in those lyrics that really relates to her, and she's drawn that and she goes back to it to kind of keep herself reminding herself about what she needs to be grateful about. And that's really nice if that's done something for her. I wouldn't have imagined that when I wrote the song, so I'm really, really pleased.
That's wonderful. Has the current pandemic kind of affected the promotional plans for the record in any way?
Well, I was going to get some dates together post album over here, and so it has potentially put a spanner in the works there, because people are it's going into that mode at the moment where even internal travel's being restricted in workplaces. They're putting in plans to work at home. People are trying to avoid social gatherings with more than a certain number of people. So I think the Book of Mormon was supposed to be playing here this month. I think that's just been pulled. We were going to go and see the National. That's just been cancelled. So, I think it's been postponed. So there's lots of, it's all up in the air at the moment. So I think it has had an impact on my plans in terms of live promotion, but there's nothing to stop me once, hopefully, this thing, I don't want to say gets out of the way, because I really don't know how long it's going to go on for, but I think once things improve and we get a bit closer towards normality again, I'm certainly happy to see what the reaction is to the record, and if there's demand, do something. But if it doesn't work out, we'll just put that time into working on recording the next one, and hopefully by that point I'll have more of an audience, because people will have found the first record, and if they like it, they might want to hear something else. So that's equally fine to me. But the great thing about, I suppose, there's good and bad things with the internet, but the great thing, and I'm talking to you in Los Angeles, and I can have radio stations in London playing me, or in Peru, or somebody discovered me who lived over in India. So that's the wonderful thing about the internet, is that I don't have to physically be somewhere. I don't have to physically be playing for somebody, but they can find the music. So in that sense, the coronavirus isn't going to stop me.
I did have to ask you, and this is a random non-music question. What is the best food you've had from around the globe? Is it in the UK? Is it Greece? Is it Japan?
Gosh.
Is it Argentina? Is it New Zealand? It's probably the hardest
That
question.
is the hardest question. I think the easiest answer would be at home with my mum's Persian home cooking. So that would probably be the easiest answer, because she's a really great cook, and she cooks Persian food, but lots of different things. And it's really hard taking her to a restaurant because she's so critical, because she can make it better. So I'm quite blessed really to have somebody. So yeah, I am a big foodie, and I think a lot of it comes from just growing up in a culture where food is really important, not just because of it's an event, but it's also about sharing and showing that you care about people. But in terms of traveling places, I was really surprised that I was expecting Argentina to be the be all and end all when it came to food. But on that same trip to South America, I was surprised that Chile, it was great for food, because they had really fresh seafood. I had the best crab I think I've ever had there, this king crab. In the Panion area, that was really good. Really good ceviche and sushi as well. That was great. But Japan had good food, and also China, which is another place I visited. You get really good food there, and it's not expensive.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I actually like Beijing, Shanghai, and Hong Kong more than I kind of like Japan's food, but I still love Japan as a country. And
The most eventful meal I've had was probably in China. So we went to it's a restaurant that's near the Lama Temple in Beijing. It's a vegetarian restaurant. And I went in, we'd just done all the tourist things. We were in our shorts, we were all sweating. And I went in, we had a look at the menu, and they said, oh, we were looking at it thinking, oh, this place looks a bit sophisticated. But they were very encouraging, come. So, okay, we'll try this place out. And we entered, so we looked just like we've come off the street, and there were all these people in suits, and there was a harpist, and there was white linen, and it was super fancy. And we thought, okay, we're out of place here. We had the food was delicious, but it was just really bizarre because after we'd eaten, and they said to us, oh, free liquor on the house. And we're like, okay, great. So we had a free shot of something, and then they brought this massive scroll, and they said, oh, we'd like you to, they had these quill pens, and they said, we'd like you to write a comment about the food that you've had here, write whatever you feel like. So I said, okay. So wrote about how great the food was, how wonderful the atmosphere was, how great the harp playing was. And then they came back and they had these stamps that they wanted us to seal the scrolls with. So, okay, this is rather fancy. So did that as well. And then on the way out, they gave us these signs. They asked if we could take pictures holding these signs that apparently is in Chinese characters, but it said, I love animals and I like vegetarian food thing. So they did this little photo shoot with them on the way out, which was quite interesting. And then as we were leaving, then all these puffs of dry ice went off in our faces. It was like pomp and ceremony for us. So that was pretty interesting. And I spoke to a friend afterwards because she's from Beijing originally, and I said, oh, they did all of this for us, and I don't know who they thought we were. And she said, oh, I think they were just probably happy that they had people that were not locals there, and so they really pushed the boat out for us and gave us a really full experience. So that's a meal that really sticks out in my mind. But yeah, Manchester's also a great city as well for live music.
That's where you're from, right?
Yeah, I was actually born in a part of Manchester where the Gallaghers were from. So it was a bit rough at the time, I suppose. Now it's more gentrified around there. So I was born at that area. Then the family moved across to a little suburb outside of Sheffield, which also has a music tradition as well in Sheffield, but maybe not as strong as Manchester. Mm-hmm. There's something about Manchester, it's just, maybe it's because it's smaller than London. It just feels like there's a really kind of good concentration of culture there. And I think in New Zealand, people say that about Wellington, which I just went to for the first time over the weekend. But once we went to this street that's quite iconic in Wellington called Cuba Street, I looked at my partner and our friend, and I said, this is just like Manchester, you know, all the cool record stores and quirky cafes and thrift stores. Like, that's very much the kind of city it is. So
it made you feel like you're back home
yeah, it felt really like home. And I think the weather probably is quite like Manchester as well, but it wasn't on that weekend. It was pretty beautiful. That's the other thing about Manchester, is that you can understand when you live in that area why he is the way he is. Or even the Gallaghers, they write a lot about rain and sunshine, and that's because, again, the weather in Manchester sucks. But I thought that Manchester rained the most, and then I moved to Auckland, and Auckland doesn't rain as much, but when it rains, it really pours, and I was shocked by that. It's almost tropical when it rains here. It's pretty heavy.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I do want to go to New Zealand. My sister's been to Australia. She's done the Australian trip, and she's done the New Zealand trip. And and so I'm quite excited to do that trip on my own and take like the bus across Australia, and I would love to go back to Japan. So even if I went to Japan and then down to New Zealand, I would love to do that too.
Oh, me too. I love Japan. And speaking of music, though, I mean, we saw a Beatles tribute band in Japan.
How was that?
Parrots. That was really cool because the reason we went was because my husband, he had seen this band they're called the Parrots, this Beatles tribute band, and they were supporting Arctic Monkeys in Manchester. And so we found out they did a residency in Roppongi, so we thought, oh, we'll go to that. And when I was looking it up, I found out that Paul McCartney had actually hired out that venue for his wife Nancy's birthday. And I found that quite bizarre, really, because he effectively was saying to his wife, "Happy birthday. Here's a Japanese man pretending to be me." And it's almost a little bit, I think it is that big-headed of him that he decided that was the best way to celebrate a birthday. But I imagine it was great fun, though. And they were amazing. They didn't speak much English, but the singing and were great.
And just I can only imagine Paul like smiling, looking over, going, "Yeah, you see that? That's I put this together. Yeah, it's all me."
Yeah. But you should definitely come to New Zealand because it's really beautiful here. And it has a lot of the best of what I've seen in other parts of the world. So in the South Island, it looks a bit like Patagonia and a bit like Switzerland. But then the North Island and around Auckland, it's a lot more tropical. And so there's a lot I've not really seen much of the North Island. We're still discovering it. But there's quite a difference in terms of the landscapes that you'll see here. So you can have a really full experience if you get a chance to do so. Probably I'd say you'd need to spend about 3 or 4 weeks to get the most out of it.
Yeah,
though.
I'm quite excited to do some bungee jumping over the river.
Oh yeah,
and checking out Hobbiton because I grew up loving Lord of the Rings. So
yeah.
I gotta go.
Yeah, I've not been to Hobbiton yet, but we've been to a few, like Gollum's Pool. We went for a really long hike where Mount Doom is. That's really stunning. So
cool.
Of things to do here if you're a Lord of the Rings fan. But equally, it's been quite nice just getting back to basics, really, and just going and watching local bands play, because there's some really people here, and it's a shame because you feel as though that they might not be discovered because of where they live as well, that maybe they'll not get the same support out here, even though there are wonderful blogs, but I guess the industry is much smaller, so you're not going to have as many people. I guess if you burn your bridges with one, then you might.
Yeah, the one New Zealand music reviewer, he's like, I don't like anything. Yeah. That's the one aspect that I really like about that sort of like small town vibe. They can be a rock star in that like people would come out every Sunday night to go see someone like that. When compared to someone performing like here in LA, they'll perform and then they have to go and travel everywhere else. And what the New Zealand artist has is a little bit more stability, especially if he gets his feet into the right places. When someone out here, they like people come from across the country just to be discovered at like a hotel cafe, or some people just like normalcy, and I can understand that. I really do. It's just that they're making people happy with their music. That's all that really matters. But some but some people are obsessed with that limelight, and you can see it sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's the trade-off, really, is that I enjoy playing. It is really cool because you'll speak to people afterwards and then you'll gain fans, but it's also hard work as well, because you may play in a small place and then you'll find that you'll gain one fan that day. So it's quite slow growing as well. Mm-hmm. That's the tricky thing, I think. If you really want to make it, you've got to have a lot of patience, and you think, sadly, in these times as well, you've got to really invest in it as well. I feel as though because there's so much music out there, it's really hard to be able to stand out, and that's where the difficulty comes as well, in terms of you might have to invest in maybe music videos or presenting yourself in a way that you can attract people to pay attention to you. So that's very difficult for people for young bands not got financial support, then it's really hard to do to actually make it in music. But I've seen the last band I saw here, they were great, Surf Friends, and they were playing this. Well, it's an iconic Kiwi venue that it's in the middle of nowhere. It's called the Still, and they had a really big fan base, because people that were leaving the show saying, "Oh, I've seen them 5 times," and then I was curious afterwards, because I thought, I don't even know if it's their job, but I don't know if that's what they do, if they are fully supporting themselves through the music, or or if they have to do something else to be able to do music and have that impact. Something that I'm still trying to understand about the scene here.
Some people that like being a mechanic by day and being a superhero. It's like you take the mask off and you go out and you go entertain people for a couple hours and they have a good time, serenade their lives, and then run back home and put on the Clark Kent glasses and just relax.
Yeah.
I'm sure sometimes that's how you feel when you go to the day job, but secretly you're thinking about the next thing. But
it can be like that. I think when I put Blackmail out, and it was kind of strange. I'd switch my data on in the middle of the day, and then I'd have all the mails wanting to talk to me, and it's been interesting. But I love the fact that people are interested and want to talk to me and want to play the music. It's a really big compliment, and yeah, as long as I can have fun with doing it and people want to hear me, I'll carry on.
That's a good outlook, and that's also a great way to transition out of the interview.
Yeah,
I did notice a lot of your playlists on Spotify.
Oh yeah.
And as a bonus, like what's your key to making a great playlist? Like, is it something that you're just feeling for the day, or is it because a lot of your playlists are like built around your songs?
Yeah. So. Yeah, and I have got some more up my sleeve. Of course, there's going to be a blue playlist. So I think I'm going to play. I think I set out to do 11 for each song on the album, and I will carry that through. So yeah, for those, obviously it came with a theme. So if it's about blue, then it's about the color blue, or if it's like Tell the Vein is about the heart, I've gone for the heart theme. But it's always something that I've loved doing playlists, because I used to do it.
Were you a mixtape girl? Like,
yeah,
did you do the old cassette CDs?
Tapes were around when I was a kid, but I would just tape things off the radio rather than make mixtapes. But when CDs came and you had your Napsters and all these kind of things that came at the time when I was a teenager, then I started putting playlists together, and I was using my CD-ROMs to copy things. So I used to do playlists for a friend at school. We used to swap CDs. So I whether you would notice or not with my playlist, I do actually shuffle them in a way that they make sense. And it could be that I put something really random next to the other one, but it might be about a pace thing. But I used to DJ as well, so that kind of, I suppose, plays into that, because I used to DJ at an indie club, and I'd start the night off putting more obscure stuff on and trying to get people to new songs. But then as the went on and people got more and more drunk, you just kind of have to go with the classic. But I'd always try and not go for the most obvious song. So if it was going to be The Killers, put maybe another one of their popular songs on.
Like Read My Mind.
Yeah, actually, and I had a really good remix of Read My Mind, which was a Pet Shop remix that was quite cool. Or, if it was like Rehab was a big song at the time, I had a good remix of that. Or if it was Pulp, maybe I'd go for the Disco 2000 as opposed to Common. Try and maybe go for it was still like a big song, but just one that I wouldn't hear at every other indie night. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it tends to go influenced by what I like, but also what I kind of feel suits the mood. And I try and, with the playlist as well, try and showcase things from different genres as well. So it might be something old like Leonard Cohen, but then I might throw in something that's quite cutting edge in there. So one of the playlists that I played a Southeast London artist that I used to play with back in London called Nova Halo. So she's on one of my lists that most people wouldn't have heard of. So yeah, real mix of stuff.
Yeah, I always feel like it has to be a roller coaster. It's like you have to take them up and then bring it a little down a little bit and then bring it back up.
Exactly, yeah.
I always find it very challenging because I would just go, here's all my favorite songs, and they wouldn't make sense back in the day. And I've listened to my old mixtapes now, and it's really cringeworthy 80% of the time.
I think I've tried, I've tried hard not to put Beatles on every single one of them, but I have to look back and check if I've been successful with that. But yeah, I agree with you. I think that's the challenge, is sometimes it's like, I'm pretty sure I've repeated artists across them, but that's okay if they fit in with the theme. It's I'm not trying to pick things just to show how well-rounded I am.
You want them to feel something.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you DJ your wedding, or did you hire somebody?
I prepared a very detailed playlist for both the day and then in terms of instead of doing a first dance, we performed. So it was a kind of exclusive Lexytron performance before Lexytron was known to everybody else.
You got married, and then you got married to the music on the same day.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Lexi, thank you so much for talking. Hopefully this all came out fantastic.
Oh, yeah, it was an absolute pleasure. I hope I didn't bore the listeners too much.
Oh, I don't think so. I think you were far more compelling than I will ever be.
Oh, bless you.
But any last words? Any last things you want to say before because you have the platform? Pick up the record or anything you want to say. Go for it.
So Something Blue by Lexytron is out on the 20th and it'll be on all streaming platforms. Thank you to everybody, including that buzzing sound, of course, for all the support. And if you like the record and you want to, or even if you have some feedback, constructive, or you'd like to get involved in maybe collaborating on the next record, just get in touch with me because I'm very friendly and it does mean something, right? Otherwise, I have no idea. Yeah. I really hope you enjoy the album, and hopefully I'll be speaking to you when we have album number 2 coming out.